What's going on, Phins fans? It is your boy Dillon, and I am here to do my rooting guide for the week. Admittedly, I wasn't sure if I was going to do anything today. I'm kind of, having a rough time in my personal life. So I was kind of up in the air about it. I wasn't sure. I wasn't really feeling up to it, but I kind of thought about it a little more and decided I was just gonna, buck up and do it anyway, just because the rest of the week, I mean, tomorrow I'll do my preview video for the Cowboys game, and then Saturday, obviously, there's going to be Saturday football again this week, and then obviously we have the whole Sunday slate. So, and I need to have these things in or need to have these videos made before all that stuff happens. So I figure even including the Saturday game. So, I can't make the rooting guide on Saturday. It wouldn't make sense. Could do it tomorrow. Could do it but I decided I'm just going to do it today, even though I'm not really feeling it. And, I got just a lot of other things on my mind right now. It's really kind of got me stressed out and stuff. But anyway, enough of that. Let's go ahead and just jump into it. I am actually, switching things back up though, because for some reason I don't know what's going on with it. The ESPN playoff machine lately, and I kind of worked through it in my my last prediction video, playoff prediction video, or whatever, path to the playoffs video. I worked around a little bit, but it was doing it again today. So I'm just going to switch back. It's just like, for some reason, like I'll switch between, winners for games, and it won't update the playoff picture. I'm not quite sure why. So I'm just going back to the old one that I was using, as you can see here, this one. So I'm going to be using this one this time. I do have the, I guess I don't really need it now because you can actually see it. But I was going to say I do have the playoff picture too, because I might reference this a little bit as well, just so you can kind of see this order of things. But anyway, let's go ahead and get into it. So, there we go. So this was week 15. Obviously, these are all the results from week 15. We now want to move to week 16, though, as we are doing the rooting guide for this week. Okay, so, as you can see where everything stands right now. Now, here's the thing. All right, so in a lot of situations, the situation dictates kind of who you want, right? Because in a lot of situations, generally speaking, one of the general rules of thumb is if it's an AFC team playing an NFC team, you usually want the NFC team to win and give the AFC team a loss. However, at this point in the season, with the way things are shaping up for the playoffs, at this particular point, that's not always the case, right? So the context of the situation dictates on who you're going to be rooting for and what's ultimately best. And so the reason why I say that is because, first off, these are the teams that have already clinched playoff spots. When the Dolphins beat the Cowboys this week, and I think they will also. Obviously, if they were to lose to the Cowboys, then they wouldn't clinch a spot and they'd have to continue to work, right? But when they win this week, they will also jump into this rank and be a team that has clinched a playoff spot. But anyway, so let's take a look at it. So as you can see, it's then Dolphins, Chiefs, Jags, Browns, Bengals, Colts, Texans, Bills at 9, and Steelers behind them. Now, in an ideal situation, maybe you'd say you would root for the Steelers if the Bills were also to lose to the Chargers. But realistically, they're most likely not going to lose to the Chargers. And either way, it probably wouldn't really matter anyway, because the Steelers are kind of free-falling, and I think Buffalo may end up having tiebreakers over them anyway and everything. So, excuse me. Woo! Anyway, but so, we can check that out a little bit, though, as we go through this. But either way, at the end of the day, what ultimately is going to be most important is, right, for most of these games, some of these games, like obviously the Ravens and Niners game, that's going to be directly affecting us and our path to the playoffs, but as well as the number one seed, right? So there are a couple games in here that have like number one seed implications. The rest of the games are going to be implications as to whether or not the Dolphins are going to make the playoffs, if they're going to win the AFC East, and if the Bills are going to end up in the playoffs at all, or if they're going to fall out, right? And ultimately, at this point, the AFC East, unless if the Dolphins win this week and next week, we will clinch the AFC East. If the Dolphins win this week and the Bills happen to lose to the Chargers, we'll clinch the AFC East this week. So there are scenarios in which we can clinch the AFC East prior to week 18, but most scenarios, and certainly the vast majority of scenarios in which the Bills end up winning the division, it's going to come down to week 18, right? That's almost the only way that the Bills can win the division is in week 18, because even if we lose the next 2 weeks, it's still going to come down to week 18. They're still not going to be able to beat us because we're 2 games ahead of them. And yes, they would have if they win their next 2 and get to 10, we lose our next 2 and stay at 10. Yes, they would have the head-to-head tiebreaker and jump us. But then if we beat them in week 18, then we win the division. You feel me? So it's, in most scenarios, it will come down to that. So a lot of these other games like the Bengals and Steelers, the idea here is to keep the Buffalo Bills outside of the playoffs after we secure the division, which I think we will do next week. But anyway, so let's take a look at this. Let's see what happens if the Steelers were to win. So the Steelers would drop the Bengals out of the playoff picture, temporarily at least, but then, and they would not enter it. Let's see if the Chargers were to win, obviously Bills would still not be in it, but it doesn't even bump the Steelers into it. Now, maybe there's some tiebreakers or stuff along the way, but, I'm not sure. It's a lot of nuance and a lot of numbers to know like everybody's conference record and strength of victory, strength of schedule. There's all kinds of different things, conference and division records, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Anyway, so we're not going to worry about all that. Look, the Bills most likely going to win. So with a Steelers win, the Bills are in the playoffs as of then. But with the Bengals win, still in the playoffs for now, right? As you can see, but the Bengals would be in and they would also be above the Bills because they hold the head-to-head tiebreaker. Whereas the Bills would be the 6th seed with just these 2 games. All right, so there you have it. But we are rooting for the Bengals because they are currently one of the teams that holds the wild card spots and currently ahead of the Bills, period. We want the teams that are ahead of the Bills to stay ahead of the Bills. Mostly, though, the teams that are already in the playoffs as far as, wild cards go. Okay, so we're definitely rooting for the Bengals in this one. Obviously, we're rooting, because this is a rooting guide, we're rooting for the Chargers. Most likely not going to happen if we're keeping it real, even with the interim head coach bump and so on and so forth. So, it is what it is. But let's say, okay, Browns are ahead. Now, see, this one is interesting because the Browns are already ahead of them at the 5th seed, and the Texans are ahead of them at the 8th seed. Now, this is one where, honestly, it could go either way and it'd be fine. But I think this late in the season, it's almost probably better if we have the Browns win because they are already occupying one of those wild card spots. Now, here's the thing. I mean, again, this one could go either way. This one's not the biggest because, again, both of these teams are already ahead of the Bills. And, okay, so if the Bengals or the Browns would then get to 10-5, they'd be, still 2 games ahead of them. Let's say the Bills even win, though. So let's look at some of along the way. Let's look at some of these other games and assuming the Bills win, okay, against the Chargers. Browns, obviously, we keep them there, but the Bills would be in the playoffs. Now, if the Texans, it doesn't change anything. The Browns stay ahead, but the Texans, let's see, the Texans would take over the division, whereas, Jags currently hold it. They would drop to 8-7. So this would make the Texans the 4th seed. And so obviously they would still stay above the Bills. The Bills would be the 7th seed, the very last one. I think the Broncos are going to get a win here. So they should, bounce back into the win column and still make that playoff, keep their playoff hopes alive and still potentially battle. And they do hold the head-to-head tiebreaker over Buffalo because of beating them, right? So there is a possibility there. Obviously in this game, I think the Chiefs are going to win, but, not super worried about that because, again, if the Dolphins just continue to win out, they control their own destiny. And if they lose out, then, well, it doesn't fucking matter anyway. So, Dolphins just win, win, win. And the biggest thing that we're really focusing on here as far as the rooting guide goes is the Bills. Now, but I'll leave it here because definitely we would be rooting for the Raiders over the Chiefs. And it's not impossible. I don't think the Raiders are going to make the playoffs, so that really doesn't matter. You're not really counting it as far as competition for the Buffalo Bills in a wild card seed. But you would like to make the Chiefs' chances of getting the number 1 seed just that lower, right? Although I would assume that the Chiefs are going to win that game, but it just is what it is. In this case, you definitely want the NFC team. You want Washington over the Jets just because they're the Jets. They're an AFC team. They're a division rival, et cetera, et cetera. In this case, though, see, this one's different. In this case, you do not want the NFC team to win. You want the Colts to win. And you see what just happened? Colts now go to the number 4 seed. Texans then drop to the 5th seed, even though they're both tied at 9 and 6. Obviously, that division, and that's part of this whole thing. But that's good, actually, for us. Because if you keep that clump there, then it makes it that much harder for the Bills to get in because all those teams are currently ahead of them in the playoff race. But you saw what happened. The Bills then dropped out at 9 and 6, and it's because of all of these tiebreakers. The Tennessee Titans doesn't really matter to us. Let's see, where are they? They're 5 and 9 right now. They're the 13th seed. That one doesn't matter. I guess if you just want to go with the standard, fine, NFC team over AFC team. All right, in this case, we'll see, man. I'm not so sure. The Jags, they're kind of choke artists. Trevor Lawrence is hurt. He's in the concussion protocol, I think, right? Still, Baker Mayfield and them are going. But we would actually be rooting for the Jags in this case, again, because we want to keep these teams, all of these teams that are currently in the playoff picture again, right? Colts, the most important ones are the ones that are currently in. If we can also keep another team like the Texans or maybe even in the Broncos, if they get 8 and 7, and if the Bills were to lose, then they would hold the head-to-head tiebreaker and jump them, those kinds of things. You feel me? But unfortunately, these guys in the back end this late in the season, not a lot of time and opportunity to really make those pushes. So you just don't really want to worry about those too much. And the big focus is keeping all of these teams ahead of the Bills. All right, so you actually would be rooting for the Jags. Obviously, we'd be rooting for the Dolphins in our game. We want to get to 11 and 4. Now, here's the one, though. Again, it goes back to the NFC over AFC team, but also because the Ravens currently sit with the number 1 seed at 11 and 3. So obviously we want the Niners, and I actually think the Niners are going to win. Baltimore's on the road. The Niners are just destroying everybody, for the most part. They had their little slump, right? That 3-game stretch, but everybody, every team has their moments. The best of the best have them. Look at the Eagles. They're on a 3-game losing streak, right? Look at the collapse that's happened with the Jags recently. Although maybe, maybe they can turn it around and get a win this week after losing, 3 or 4 straight or whatever the fuck it is. Anyway, but so that would then make both the Ravens and the Dolphins at 11 and 4. We obviously don't care about any of these NFC on NFC matchups, so we won't even worry about that for the purposes of this video. Now, obviously, that means the Dolphins would still remain the number 2 seed, and I don't have it here, but I do recall looking at it from the other one. Maybe what I'll do is maybe I'll just bring up the ESPN playoff thing, and I'll just put them all in and just won't change them, so that way I can at least get the look at the tiebreaker situations. But anyway, because I don't think this one lists the tiebreakers or has any way to look at it. Maybe I'm wrong, but let's see. Hold on. More. No. What's this stuff? Stats. Other stuff. Anyway, whatever. Anyway, it is what it is. But yeah, so I'm pretty sure it's because strength of victory. Because of their strength of victory. because I think we're at this point we would be basically tied in conference record and that sort of stuff. Obviously, we'd be tied in overall record. And if I remember correctly, the tiebreaker would be strength of victory. So, because they have beaten better teams record-wise than the Miami Dolphins have. At least that will be until this final 3-game stretch. But anyway, there you guys have it. Hope everybody's having, happy holidays and all that stuff. Wish I could say I was, but it is what it is. Anyway, at the end of the day, though, just trying to keep pushing and, trying my best to stay focused and keep fighting and all that good stuff. It's really hard right now, and yeah. But anyway, I'm gonna get out of here, guys. I hope you do like my videos and the things I have to say, my perspective, my opinions, and that kind of stuff. So if you do, please hit the like button, the subscribe button, leave some comments down in the comment section, all that good stuff. Share my channel and videos with your friends and family. And with that, I'm gonna get out of here. Love you guys, appreciate you guys, and fins up all day, every day, baby. Let's go.
7-7. Miami wins it.